Commissioners, make sure you got your microphones on. You got them situated where you can talk into them, because we're going to live stream tonight, so people's going to want to maybe hear what we're saying. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the budget workshop, Monday, June 16th, 2025. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor and let him present the budget, the documents to us.
Thank you, Chairman. We are here tonight to bring to the full commission recommendation of the Budget Committee that has been meeting over the last several weeks, as we do each and every year. By all means, you have a question, don't hesitate to stop. Be glad to take any questions as we go. We will start out. First off, I want to thank the Budget Committee members. There's 4 commissioners who serve on that. Of course, Chairman Williamson. We also have David Anderson, Chris Gilmore, and Diana is also a member of the Budget Committee. So we've been working for a while. I do want to start with something that seems simple, because I think we kind of hammered this out a few months ago, but it will be part of the process. You can go to the next slide.
A little bit of a delay. It's showing on my PC, but it should change in a minute.
Okay, there we go. All right, and this is the fire tax. This is our current fire tax, 13.95 cents for the majority of the county. You have Harpeth Ridge, it only serves about 600 homes. Theirs would stay the same because, again, they didn't have a big increase or anything in their new contract. But in the 4-year contract, you may recall when we talked about this, we could either go to one level that would level out for the next 4 years to pay for those contracts, which is at 17.53 cents that you're seeing right there. The other option was we would be able to go one more year at the $13.95, but then it would take a jump each year. Second year would be $17.75. Third year of the contracts would go to 19.25 cents, and in year 4 would go to 20.05. So by going to the 17.53, it's level for the next 4 years. We shouldn't be coming back asking for any more money to pay for the contracts that have been approved. We've got about half of them completed, and very close on the other ones. It's just some language back and forth, but the totals are in hand, and that's all been settled with all of the 4 areas. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, when we talk about a penny in the fire tax, it does not generate like a penny in the regular tax rate. And the reason for that is that we do not have, and we do not collect this tax in the town of Pleasant View, in the town of Kingston Springs, and the town of Ashland City. This is the rural areas. We do collect it inside the city limits of Pegram to give back to them for their operation. But since those are out, it doesn't generate the same amount of pennies and revenue. The other thing it impacts the fire tax, where it's a slower growth rate or doesn't increase, it doesn't have the impact of a penny of across the county, is those cities is where the majority of industrial and commercial properties are. And so therefore they're at a 40% appraisal assessment in the tax formula. So therefore we lose that too. We don't gather that on the fire tax. So somebody told me once, said, well, the penny raises this, so a penny it's not the same with the fire tax. Just keep that in mind. But this, as there seemed to be the consensus that we go to one set level, it should be there. Now, over the next 3 years, if this is approved, the next 3 years, there would be some growth there. So we could see that come down to 15.2 or something that would take that growth in and lower that a little bit over the next 3 years. But that would lock it in for the 17.53. Any questions on the fire tax or the fire contracts? All right, now let's get into the meat of the matter of the main budget. And I introduced the Budget Committee, and I thank them so much for taking time and being involved in the process. And this process started back in February with getting the totals and the requests from all the departments across the county, elected officials. And then the first thing we do as a Budget Committee, we come together. This is what all the requests were. When we sat down on day 1, if we approved everything that was requested in those budget requests, we would be looking at a 36.73 proposed increase in the property tax to pay for all of it. Now, I call this the budget dance. They put out their Christmas list, we get together, and then we get to be Scrooge and tell them it's a hard candy Christmas and we'll never in the world bring you whatever they're asking for. We start to chop and and whittle down and back and forth, and that's what we're going to go through tonight, what we ended up with as a budget committee. But I wanted y'all to all be aware, those of you who are not on the budget committee, of where we started with this, 36.73. And we're going to break down these codes and colors here on the next one. But you're seeing, and again, look right there. That's the current penny value. That was based on if we had no growth in the penny, and it stayed at $194,037 on a penny value. And each one of those pennies, the tax rate right now is $1.59. So in essence, we have 159 pennies, and every one of those pennies that we put on the tax rate generates $194,037 in the current year. So that's where we started with the current penny value, and all the requests from all the departments, that's what it would look like. Now, let's go to the next one. After several weeks, and the process is not only that, but we send back to the department heads anyone we said no or reduce their request. They had the option to come back for the budget committee and present their case of why they needed the extra money or the extra help in their area, and then we did a final and came up with this that we're bringing to you tonight. Now, I want you to concentrate on the top part right now. Of course, everybody's looking right here. We are looking at this point, there's a little bit more fine tuning, but at this point, what we're proposing is a 16.15 cent increase to the property tax rate. And let's break that down. Over here, and also I want you to look at the color code. We got the brown, those are uncontrollables. Those are either contracts that are set increases, things that have been approved that we shouldn't pull back out or can't pull back out or shouldn't pull back out. I guess you could if you wanted to. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Then the blue is additional. And then the green is going to be funded by fund balance. It'll have no impact on the property tax rate or be funded from another source, and we'll get into that. And then we've got the vehicle fund. But let's take this over here. In the uncontrollables, the longevity. For all the employees in the county that rate another year with the county, they get $100 extra for that extra year of service. And they start that, is it year 8? I believe it's year 8, they get $800 after year 8, or maybe it's after 7, they get 7. They get $700 after 7 years in their 8th year here. They get a $700 bonus because they've completed 7 years, and $100 per year for as long as they're with the county. And you may recall we adjusted that a few years ago because it was capped at 20 years. And so my comment was, well, we only appreciate them the first 20 years they're with us. So we all allowed that to be opened up several years ago, and so now, if you're with us 40 years, you're going to get a $4,000 bonus in year 41. So you get $100 per year with that. But the longevity this year is adding $10,000 to our budget for the new year that starts July 1st. This is the increase needed to fund the approved salary study that was done back in November of last year that kicked in about half the year of this current year, and also the increases for elected officials. Other approved items are in there. $2.1 million, $2,127,040.64. And then the increase to retirement matching, this also came from the state, which we have no control of, the state retirement program that the county participates in. Our match went from 6 1/4 to 6.77. It's almost just a tad over 0.5% increase. That is costing the county in the new budget year $79,586. So all that uncontrollable is $2,216,627.50. So in order to fund that, the pennies needed would be 11.17. And then look at this. This has got our new penny value. You recall on that last slide we had 194,000 this year and some odd dollars. Now the penny value is coming in $198,426. So in essence, every penny of the tax rate will now generate $4,000 more than it did last year. So if you say 100 pennies and 4,000 more, that's 400,000 more that we're getting in revenue off of the same properties. And the growth of the penny is not necessarily the same properties. Generally, the growth of the penny are new properties that's coming on to the tax rolls, new homes that's being built, or new commercial businesses, new industries. So that's where the growth is coming from. So with that section alone, it would be 7.48. And if you pull this over here, you've got the salaries and the uncontrollables coming into that 1331. You've got the additions from the budget committee, and we'll go through those. That's amounting to about $488,000, and that's about almost 2.5 cents, 2.46 cents, for a total of 15.77. And then we're also looking at recommending a 0.38 increase to the vehicle fund. We have had the vehicles, patrol cars, ambulances, as you could imagine, they have all gone up in price in the last several years. So to buy the same number to keep our fleet in rotation, we need to add about another, a little bit better than 1/3 of a cent to that to keep pace with inflation on those vehicles. Any questions on this top part? And again, we're going to go through the requests and where they ended up with through the budget committee. That is at $488,000. Any questions so far? Any questions on this top part? Thank you. All right, now let's go into the request. And again, anytime y'all have a question, don't hesitate to stop or ask a question. Be glad to take it on. County Commission. Again, you see the brown. What is that? Uncontrollable. No, I need to go back. Wish I could go that fast, but I can't. All right, again, the brown here is uncontrollable. These are costs that we can't go negotiate back, or we can't, anyway, they're in set basically. You got board and committee fees, and this is extra above what they have been paid in the current year. The extra would be $2733.66, and out of that they take deductions or Social Security, which is $209. And then the audit services, that increases about 3% a year, that's an extra $549. And then the data processing services for the county commission, that's the live stream that we're on right now. That's now doing all of your meetings. So you have that for $1,800, $52.91. And again, if you see brown, there's not really much you can do about it. Okay, now let's go to the mayor's section. This green, if you go back up here, the request is going to be to fund it out of fund balance, $33,000, which I'll bring to you later this month to set up for July. And I've talked to several of you about this, especially the Kingston Springs. I think I've talked to Kingston Springs and several others on the budget committee. The $33,000, the Kingston Springs Library on Main Street in Kingston Springs, that building is owned by the town of Kingston Springs. We lease it for, I think it's $1 a year or $10 a year or something. And so all the parking that serves that library, we don't own an inch of it. Town of Kingston Springs doesn't own an inch of it. We are surrounded on two sides where all this parking is, and we use that parking is from the Kingston Springs Church of Christ. And so they have, and since the library has been there, we've been able to use that parking at no charge, nothing from the church, no problem, no issues whatsoever. And so the parking lot needs some maintenance. It needs some resurfacing. It needs some redoing some of the base. Anyway, the total cost is about $66,000. And so the church came to me and said, we've never charged y'all. Would y'all be willing to do anything to make up this? And again, we've had free use of that parking lot. I guess, how long has the library been there? Since late 80s. Late 80s, and we've never paid a penny lease or anything from that parking lot. What we hammered out was if the county took on half of that, church would pay half of it, and on a new 10-year lease. Again, we can't give $33,000 in asphalt or paving or anything like that. We can, and Michael Bly has hammered out, which we'll have to the commission later this month, a lease, a 10-year lease, and the county would pay $33,000 for basically use for that parking lot for the next 10 years. And that would solve everything. But that's coming later this month, so I don't want to get too much on that. But that's what that's about. And then the 114624 is GNRC membership fees, Greater Nashville Regional Council, which we're a part of, and that they help supply our planning services, but also they're my go-to when we have an opportunity for a grant writing. They help us with that tremendously. So that is what that is. 114624 would have a true impact on the budget up here. That would be a one-time charge. Let's not come back every year asking $33,000 to redo the parking lot. Moving on. And again, if you have any questions, just speak up. Register of Deeds. This left column is what they requested from the elected official or the department head, and this is the budget committee recommendation. Again, we've gone straight through. Nothing was cut from these two. Again, on Register of Deeds, a lot of brown. Again, uncontrollables. Additional cell phone for the Register of Deeds, increase in fees of $150, legal guidance. I don't believe she had any legal money in there, and she ran into a couple of legal issues, or had to get Michael Bly involved this year. So she's got a little bit in case she had to go to that. And then the travel was the big increase of $1,100 due to training and other travel needs, so $2,037.50. Moving on to the building codes. They requested the consultant's planning. The fees have gone up to $62.31. Data processing for the software is $3,500. Upgrade to the existing software. Engineering services, $7,600. He has fallen short in this in the last couple of years, and we've got it designed so that if we're having to go to engineer fees, we generally can recoup that from whoever's applying for something if it's a review, our review of that. But we need an independent review of even whatever they're bringing us, if it's a big subdivision or something that's going to involve that. So extra fees on that to keep from falling short each year, put money over in there. And then legal services. Also, we've had more legal in this area than normal in the last couple of years, so we're asking to go ahead and make that up. So you see, and we've actually upped that from engineering services. We upped in the budget committee because, again, we don't want him to run short and make sure he's got plenty to do. So that was $23,831.40. Any questions on that?
Can we back up just a minute?
Sure.
The travel up there,
The register of deeds?
yes.
Yes, sir.
What exactly did you say that's for?
It's due to training and other travel needs with the department, as far as the mileage and going to the conventions or whatever. We have the register of deeds here, is that not right, Chris?
Yes, that's right. There's a convention that I've started attending, it's public records industry. It's nationwide, it's not just statewide, where we get probably more information than just the statewide conferences. Since it is statewide, it requires more traveling. There's 2 conferences a year. I usually try to go to at least one of them. If I go to 2 of them, I do. The one in August is in Spokane, Washington, just because that's where they pick this year. It rotates around. Next year it could be in Tennessee for all I know.
Is that good, Mr. Knight?
Seems like that's a whole lot of money for travel to me. But
Okay.
carry on.
Next slide, Frank. Nothing like anticipation. Okay, here we go. Now, building maintenance. Now, another big item that's pushing this increase that's being recommended up is, of course, right behind us, the new jail. All of this in maintenance, you see increases due to jail addition opening in fall of 2025. Now it looks like it's going to open up sometime around the first of the year, so we've been able to trim some of that back because we don't think we're going to need a full 8 months. It's going to be more like 6. But even with that, with the new building, we got additional elevators to take care of. With permits and maintenance, there's $1,500 there. Pest control, another $666 for half a year on that. Custodial supplies, $4,000. Electricity, $33,333. Natural gas, $13,333. Uniforms, another $800 in that budget for new people. And then water and sewer, $34,606. And keep in mind, this is the 3rd year, finally we're in the 3rd year, but the town of Ashland City has increased their water and sewer rates $15 per year. This will be the 3rd year of that. So that's what some of that increase is about right there. But again, we're getting this new jail open in the new year that this budget will take in. So all of that is tied to that. Going on to accounts and budgets. Again, green is a one-time charge that we have covered from other areas or payout without having to, this does not impact the new proposed property tax increase or go in as recurring costs. Here we had one of our members of our accounting crew. They left so they could take care of their grandchild, and we wish them well. I think they left out last week. So her final payroll will be in the new year to have payout of her benefits and stuff that she would have a payout on that and make the final payments on that. Then you have data processing services down here, one-time implementation for the attendance and software. We got into this program 5 years ago, and up front we did the program and it covered the first 5 years of maintenance. We're now in year 6 with this new budget year, and so that's $13,475 for maintenance on the software for the payroll software that we use. Then data services, time and attendance software and fees for local government is $17,913. So there's your total there. Again, the brown is uncontrollable. The green is being covered from shifting funds from other areas to cover those costs. On to the trustee now. There was a total of 18,040 requested. Again, we came straight across the board and left this intact. Data processing services, again, Brown, uncontrollable. Data processing services, $2,000. Membership increases of $194. Maintenance costs for 2 cash currency machines, $400 a year. Printing stationery forms and tax notices, another $2,000. Increased cost of postage, printing, and additional parcels. Then the travel, now this is new spending on top, an additional $496 due to additional conferences mileage rate increase. And then data processing equipment of $12,950. This is, in most of the offices, we get a swap out of the desktop computers every 5 to 6 years. They just are too old to upgrade. In some cases, the software will upgrade where you can no longer upgrade them, but that's the time around. But that's the reason you're seeing green, is that we would do a one-time purchase replacing those. She's not replacing 6 computers each year. It's just her time to do that. So that's the reason you're seeing that in green. County clerk, $2,988.50. This is a wash right here, shifting funds from the budget, the commission budget for minute taking to the county clerk part-time is those top 2 lines. So that's kind of a wash. It's just a bookkeeping, housekeeping issue. Contracts with private agencies, this is with Vans Hardware. And they have charged $600 a month to handle the tags out in Pleasant View for the clerk's office. And they're asking that to go to $650, extra $50 a month, 12 months. That's the extra $600 we would pay to continue with Van providing that service out in Pleasant View. Data processing services, again here, an increase of $1,888, and then mileage increase there of $500 for that from the clerk's office. Going into data processing and information technology, this is new, 1560. There's been a request for email addresses for all jail and court security employees. 75 additional licenses were requested, 10 were already budgeted for, so the 75 additional, what I broke that down, it's like $20 a piece, so that everybody can have their own email on the county email service. That's 1560 in new spending. Maintenance, repair, and office equipment, 4553, again, due to increase in fees. We have increase in fees every year. Circuit court, they had one request, $4,000, again, due to increase in fees, data processing services. Moving on to recovery court. Now this is where this can get confusing if you just look at it. So let me just give you the nickel story here. The bottom line is, you may recall last year we added, it was a request from Judge Maxey to add the drug recovery court. And we agreed to take from the drug settlement funds. It was $102,000 last year to start that. There'd be a full-timer and a part-timer, and they would keep up with those cases. And it hopefully diverts people that would be serving in jail to get their lives back together. We never have to take care of them in jail. And so it took them a while to get up and running. And so they are coming back. They've come back and wanted that again. They've also requested that, and the part of this was to make it 2 full-time people instead of a full-time, part-time. In the budget committee, we said we need to see how you're working with a part-time, but they were able, and they are able, and we got a commitment, and we need to update the maintenance or the memorandum of understanding with the coalition of Cheatham County. They've got all kind of grant money that's coming in, and they've agreed to fund that out of their grant. Now, I made it very clear to them, this grant goes away, there's no assurance that we would have it in the drug fund to continue that. So whoever they hire needs to be, as a temporary employee, or well aware that if it's, that concerns me a little bit at this time, because we've seen cases where at the federal level, these grants are drying up, or they're not being renewed, those type things. But we agreed as the budget committee that we were okay with that as long as we get the memorandum of understanding in place. And so therefore, they would have that budget, but again, keep in mind, this in no way impacts the budget, our budget from the property tax rate. So we're getting money from other sources to pay for that. And so it's a breakdown of the employees is really what you're seeing on all of this from the medical insurance, because again, that's going to be 2 people instead of 1 part-time. We do not offer benefits like that. So we add another full-timer, that's going to include that. But again, that's covered in the 63,071 increase from the grant money. It's reimbursable, so we'd spend it, but we get it back from the grant. Any questions on that? It's a little, almost have to draw out a diagram, an organizational chart to make that make sense sometimes, but that's the bottom line. Franklin, let's go again. Need to spend money on getting you a faster computer.
I think it's the projector.
Sure, blame it on the projector.
Not low.
All right, here we go. Chancery Court. Guess what? Increase in fees. $1,030. That's all that was requested from that area. And then this also, we took quite a bit of discussion and meetings with Judge Maxey and his staff.
Spoke too soon.
Thank you. Judge Maxey and his staff right here with the juvenile, because they were asking for an additional, person in their area. And through the discussions, Judge Maxey determined he could shift an existing person into this position so we didn't have to create a new one. So all of this kind of washes out through that. Now up there at the top, it's not all involved that. Let me just go down through here and make sure we don't miss anything. Judge Maxey had requested an increase on the night magistrates, and these are the folks that come out at night and weekends, holidays. If an officer has to write up a warrant, they come and write up the warrant and put it in the system so the process can continue. And so there was one judicial commissioner that's at $37,857. The second one's at $13,634. Judge Maxey was asking that both those go to $45,000 a year. What we did was say, this is where you're at. If you got a 3% increase, that's what this looks like. And so we took those increases from 71 and 83, and we're recommending 1135 for one and 1,099 for another, which is 3%. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, these positions were not put in the salary study at all. They were not put in the salary study. So that's part of that why we said, well, we ought to get at least a 3% cost of living type standard. So that's what we did on bringing those down. This again is a wash because Judge Maxey committed to moving one of his existing positions to where he was trying to get a new position to make that work. He did ask that, and you see that went to zero. He did come in and request that one of his probation officers get a $7,500 raise. For one of his probation officers, we denied that based on that the salary study took all of that position in and set the job at what it was. He said that, well, he goes out on nights. Well, that position gets comp time, so you get time and a half. So again, can't justify that, and we didn't want to open up the door. We're only 6 months into our salary study where people come in and just say, I want $5,000 more for this employee, that employee. So kind of pushing that back as well. So that was taken out of the budget. Now the rest of this is the swap out. You see some is plus and some is minuses, and when you get down here, he ended up 3 extra cents to fund what he's wanting to do, and he's getting it done. He's moving the one position. Now, he didn't get his bonus up here for that guy or the extra salary, and he didn't get the full 45. But we did increase that by 3% and came out with 3%, 3 cents, not 3%, 3 cents increase to the main budget. Any questions on Judge Maxey's budget? All right, moving along to courthouse security. The request was based on as soon as this new criminal justice center opens up, there's 2 new courtrooms over here with the 2 existing. They wanted 4 full-time court officers. You see, we pushed back on that because again, our thing was we don't have the 4 yet, and until you get the 4 and see how it works, and we maybe by next year we'll have a little bit better handle on it, or they would. So we did take that out. The other request was $44,000. They're requesting the part-time pay from $15.28, the current pay level for security folks in the court system, to go to $20 an hour. Our recommendation was to take it to $16.50 from the $15.28. That took that down from $44,000 to $78.70 and 90 cents. And the rest of the retirement Social Security is what we would pay out as a county based on that $78.70, because that was adjusted down true from these numbers. But we didn't add any full-time people on that request. So you see, went from $330,000 in request down to $84.73. On to the Sheriff's Department. This is uncontrollable, and again, he wasn't asking, I mean, he's right here, I'm talking like you're not here, Sheriff, but you're right here. The Sheriff was not requesting for any additional road deputies, anyone on the staff. He was trying to reorganize a little bit, and with existing positions, he was asking for this amount to promote from within a deputy position to a sergeant position, but again, he's not coming back asking for another deputy, so he's not creating a position. And then requesting the SRO paid holidays, 8 hours to 8.5 hours on the day they work. So part of that is in there, kind of uncontrollable. And then down here, the request was because they felt they didn't have it in there last year, they needed to do it this year. And we were able to work through this and find, you may recall, y'all approved the flock cameras, which are going to be out on the roadways and of Cheatham County that would read license plates in case somebody's coming through that shouldn't be in here or up to no good, whatever. Well, they haven't got that done, and so we do not have to pay that until they get the last camera in. So we did not pay for that last year, so we basically brought that money of $63,000 that was dedicated last year over to pay for it when it comes due this year. So we didn't need that full $100,000 to make that work, and also there's other cameras involved in that. So we were able to readjust that and save that. And then an increase in fees was $4,250, $10,000. Again, this is, we'll find from other sources, not come to the tax rate, in order to maintain their AEDs that they have in all the cars and the facilities and related supplies with that. Any questions on the sheriff's request? Now here's where it gets interesting. The good old jail. The old jail, the new jail, every jail, right here. All right, you may recall, I want to refresh last year because they had requested 25 jailers. And of course, we looked at it and said, well, you're not going to be open in the current year that we're in right now. And what we did, you may recall, is we added 12 positions, 12 jailer positions that would start May 1st of this year. And so within May and June, they're only in 2 months of the current fiscal year. So that's what we budgeted, 12 people for 2 months, and they're in the process of hiring them. And so those 12 now, in the new budget, we are funding for the entire year, not just 2 months. So that's adding to that. The other thing that is coming into play, you may recall last year we hired a IT person. So we really gave them 13 positions last year. An IT person started at half year. This year they're going to be in a full year. So we got to fund that for the full year. The other thing about those 12 jailers is that in 90 days is when their benefits kick in. So they just started literally 5-6 weeks ago, the new ones that are on. So their benefits will come in full fold in the new budget year. So we've got a budget for those 12 for the full year, not just 2 months. And we got a budget for their benefits that'll kick in here in about 35 days. So all that is happening as part of the uncontrollable, that's part of that. But they did come this year and ask for 9 new jailers, and they wanted a maintenance person. And this is 9 on top of the 12 from last year. And they wanted another maintenance person to go with the 1 maintenance position they now have, and they were requesting 3 new sergeants to offset with jailer reserve funds. Well, I'll tell you about that. So anyway, they were asking, and all that combined is what is adding this total up so much over here. Where we're at right now, and I want to commend JJ and the sheriff because they've really looked at this hard. The other thing is, as I've told you, the jail opening is probably adjusted around the first of the year instead of October, like last year when we were working on the budget. So it should open around the first of the year, which means anyone new should be hired around the 1st of December. And so what we've agreed to and what we found, I started looking and thought, well, if we put the 3 sergeants in, there's that reserve. I don't know if y'all remember or not, but there's a reserve from the jailers that if it's unused, it goes into reserve and only be used for jailers. Well, and the sheriff's area for personnel. We have enough in that to go ahead and hire the 3 sergeants, including their benefits, if they start December 1st. Now, the other commitment from the sheriff and JJ, for some reason that jail gets pushed back to February 1st. It'll be 30 days before the opening of the new jail when these hirings would take place. But the good news is that is in there. So we're not having to add the 3 sergeants' costs. If y'all approve this, the way it's setting, we can draw that from the reserve fund, give them 3 more people with the 12 people, and do that. Now, we did not agree to the maintenance person based on that. We've got 1 maintenance person. The facility will be new. Everything's basically got a year warranty on it. There's still maintenance and all to do, but we'll take that up again next year and go from there. And we did not give the other 9 new jailers. The other commitment, which I want to commend the sheriff and JJ on, was that, you know, and y'all know the process. We're trying to get in that new jail, and when it opens, we're going to take all the staff, all of our inmates to the new facility. Then bail is supposed to come in and renovate the old jail. And so I've got a commitment from them until they truly need to come back into this old jail. They will not reopen the old jail, because that's going to require about 12 people in the old jail to run it. So the longer we can push that out, and I don't know, they may fill up the jail quicker than I think they will, and I don't know what that magic number is. They would have to tell me, because I'm not in that business. I don't know if that's 160, I don't know if it's 175, we don't know. But at some point, they'll know they need to bring the women back over here, or the weekenders, or whatever the case may be, even though it's much more secure over there. That will save us money from definitely hiring 12 more people, or up to 12 people to run the old jail, as well as utilities and everything else. Everything's more efficient in the new jail. So I'm gonna hold them to that best I can. And again, I trust them when they come to me and say they need that, they'll need it. They're just not automatically, when they finish renovation, open back the old jail, if that makes sense. Okay. So the rest of this is matched. Now, the other thing we did was good news, if there was good news on the jailer front, is because for the last several years, we have budgeted $200,000 in the sheriff's budget and the jail's budget for any, and this happened after the riot. You may remember the riot in the jail several years ago. Channel 2 made a big thing about it because it was really messed up. And so after that time, we budgeted in case the sheriff needed to take a troublemaker to another jail and get him out of our jail. This would stand put to pay to have Robertson County take them, Montgomery County, or whoever we could get to take the troublemaker, so to speak. So with the new jail, we have the facilities and the ability to isolate so that we don't have to worry about that anymore. So that came back into our budget to help offset some of the costs of the new jail. So that's the reason you're seeing that in parentheses. That's actually a positive for the budget process this year. Then you got data processing, $2,000 in travel. Cost for the new dumpsters for the jail is $6,000 a year. Any question on that? Because we've got some more on the next slide to see the totals. If not, we'll move ahead. I think there's only about 2 more pages of this, so we're in pretty good shape time-wise. All right. Also, staying with the jail, law enforcement supplies, we left this in there. That does impact the property tax rate because it's blue. Additional supplies needed for additional employees, $3,000. Office supplies for new jail, $3,000. And the virtual academy training software, $5,600. So that ends out the jail. Dispatchers, Linda, which does a phenomenal job in 911, she came and approached, she asked in her initial request for 4 new dispatchers. When she got to the budget committee, we turned that back because of so much other stuff going on this year. And she may bring it back next year. If she does, we'll definitely take it up. But she said she could make it another year. We felt some of that was, and I don't know where it was or not, it's just, I think some of it, and of course, if you didn't know, 911 opened up at their new facility last week in the lower level of the health department. So they're now up and operating, no longer in the basement here. They're out there and operating. But we felt that some of that may be, because with the new area, they put in an extra console. So they can accommodate another dispatcher per shift, but that doesn't necessarily mean they need another dispatcher per shift. But we'll monitor that, and trust me, Miss Linda will let us know if that doesn't work out. But that was almost $300,000 that we sliced there. Coming on down here to animal control, they had requested $43,000 extra dollars. We cut that to $16,000. Part-time personnel, she was asking for another $30,000 because they've got an increase in intakes, obviously, at the facility. We did cut that to 10. Which also brought the Social Security part of that pay down. And then in supplies, we cut that in half. We cut both those in half. And the reason for that being is, and I think I've told y'all before, animal control gets an incredible amount of donations. I don't have another area under the mayor that somebody comes up and says, I want to give a donation. Somebody put in their will about $30,000 to animal control this year that passed away. So I'm glad, but nobody's ever come and said, they did such a good job at the dumpster, I want to pay solid waste an extra tip or $100. Well, we get donations, and that's great, but so they will have funding out of their donations to do that, and it's, so that will kind of take care of most of that request. EMS, and I'm so glad BJ is here. BJ came to us with an aggressive plan, and aggressive's not bad, it's a good plan. A good plan, because he knows the point is coming, if it's not already here, that we need another team on the ambulances. We have too many cases where all of our ambulances are out or en route to Nashville, coming back from Nashville, and we're having to rely on Montgomery County, Robertson County to fill in the gap and make calls in Cheatham County. So he did request, now again, let me preface that saying he didn't get it, but he did request 8 paramedics, 1 for the D shift floater that he talked about last year, and then 7, it takes 7 people to staff a new ambulance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So he's asking for 8. back and forth, what we did, and I think this is an awesome plan, it gets us heading in the right direction. It may not get us there all in one swoop, but at least we're taking a baby step toward where we need to be. 2 paramedics could go 5 8-hour days. Is that correct, PJ? 4 12-hour days, and we can station them if this is approved, and he's got the ambulance already that's ready to go. We don't have to buy another ambulance to make this work, but he would have that 2-member crew, 12 hours a day, 4 days a week, stationed in Henrietta to make calls. So it would cover West Cheatham, where that's the longest ride out there. In some cases, it's 30, 35 minutes to get, depending on where the ambulance has to leave, to get out to the edge of Henrietta. So that would help us from that standpoint. It would give us an extra ambulance on the road that would do the backup rather than having to call on Montgomery County and Robertson County. So that expense is in here for the 2 and the related expense to that. Now in the green, we have called that because of the trouble that we had back in January dealing with the overtime. So we're trying to change our process there, rather than getting halfway year and saying, where's the overtime, we need to fund it, is to go ahead and put this in up front, and we'll still look at it at mid-year, and as, of course, each month as we go, as we've been doing. But that would be, we trimmed that back a little bit, but that's for overtime pay of $155,000, and that's the match on what we'd be paying out on that retirement Social Security. Then an extra $4,500 to cover the 3 high school games when they have home games, football games. In-service training for the whole staff's $168,000. And you may recall the training and then the overtime is what was adding up to that huge amount that we approved back in January. But then also this, if that's paid out in training, this covers the county's match and what we have to pay, uniforms $2,000, furniture and fixtures. This is if we go to the Henrietta station. Now for some reason y'all say we're not gonna do that and pull those 2 out. We're not going to Henrietta, so that would come out. But we do have, and that's the other part about that, we do have the understanding with the Pleasant View Volunteer Fire Department that oversees that Henrietta, that we could use that as an ambulance station. It needs a little bit of upgrade to some appliances and stuff, so they really haven't had manpower out there in a good while. At that station, every once in a while, somebody would stay. So we may have to do some upgrades on that to make that work, but nothing major. We got the place, and we go from there. And we probably enter our same type contracts we do leasing the space out at Pleasant View's main station on Main Street. Maintenance and repair of vehicles, another $98,000, because again, we're getting extra life out of some of these vehicles because we haven't been able to get the replacements in a timely fashion. So we're keeping up some older ambulances there. Maintenance and repair of vehicles, $6,000. The rental contract where we have rentals, $2,000, $3,000 on tubes and tires due to increased call volume and road miles, $5,000 for uniforms. And again, that would be tied to if we hire 2 new people, that wouldn't be that much if we don't hire the 2. But if we put those 2, it's a good step in. The other plan, I don't know if you want me to tell this or not, but the other plan would be if next year we could add 2 people out in the East Cheatham area and run another ambulance 5 days a week, we would have coverage every day, overlap, and really put us in good shape till we can get to that point of a whole nother staff on at some place. So that would be the long-term consideration on that. But even there, where it was $1.355 million, the request, it's still a chunk of change at $695,101. But it's taking care of some areas we need to take care of in the county. Next one, a $3,000 increase. We call this uncontrollable because this is due to the number of deaths in Cheatham County. Unless you can keep people alive, we probably need to put that in there because we have autopsies and follow-ups from the medical examiner. Senior Citizens Assistance, this was good news this year because we've been tracking about an 8% increase each year. They determined there would be no increase needed in the new budget year, so there's no increase there, so that was good news. Cheatham Library, South Cheatham Library. Now they have been talking, of course it's in the early stages, of course they've dealt with the school board about looking at the property there at Harpeth Middle School. On the backside of that property, constructing a new library. They're trying to do their fundraising and get those things in line and order to see if they can put that off, because I've told them you're gonna have to raise a lot of money to make that happen. And so they're working toward that. But the library has come this year. They've got a new director down there, and their staff the director is the only full-time person they have. Everyone else are part-time personnel at the library to run it. She was asking for a full-time, and she could put some of the part-time over there to offset that, but she can't cover the benefits. And the benefits are like another $21,000 when it's a full-time person. So we pulled that for this year and pulled that back out of the request to save that part But again, if they build that new library, and I'm saying that's bare minimum 3 or 4 years down the road, we'd probably need to look to increase the staff at that time. And she may bring it back next year and we'll look at it. But that's why that was pulled back to 0. Next page. All right, Veteran Services. Angela and her crew out at Sycamore Square. And let me preface this too. Angela last year came on about the time we were wrapping up the budget. May have already been done by the time she got there. And she had no real input on that budget. So she now has gone through with these requests, communications, 520, the data processing, because state has taken on some of that software, actually saving about $1740, decrease in costs there. Dues and membership, about $700 increase. Maintenance and repair of office equipment, $368. And then her travel line is $4,645.04 to attend multiple trainings, not only for her, but her staff, because they need to keep certification up, and they go to quite a bit of training, which is involved with those jobs. So that's the VSO, and we basically, as a committee, left that intact. Any questions on VSO? And this, I like calling the Donnie Jordan era, the trustees commission, because he was always upset over this. Nothing we can do about it, or he would have done it if there's something we could have done about it. But the trustees commission goes in as part of the budget, and again, this is an increase based on revenue, and the revenue increases of sales tax, property tax, whatever the case may be. If we can lower that property tax, this would go down a little bit because it's all based and tied to that. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the county anyway, so it's just one of those old laws that's on the books that we still have to abide by. All right, now here's where we could possibly save some money, but I say we could because we got one total back today that was even over what we had estimated. So once all the dust settles on this, because unfortunately the insurance companies will not give us true numbers till down in June on some of this. So we're kind of shooting in the dark, trying to make sure it's covered. So some of these could be adjusted down, but again, some could be adjusted up. The only blue in here, when we started the process this year, we had talked about could we consider someone who is on workers' comp, an employee in the county on workers' comp, to pay their health insurance while they're out on workers' comp. And so through discussions, we pulled that back. We pulled that back for now. We may revisit it later and go from there, but that was pulled out. That was the only extra. The rest of these a lot of them are estimates. So time we get, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to fill in true numbers to back this up. So it's still a little bit of a gray area and uncertainty there. We thought we had them high enough that they should be coming down, but we got stung today with one that was actually higher on that. So we'll have all that hopefully, definitely 2 weeks from now, we should have all those numbers totaled and know what we're at. Okay, last 3 things, and we're done with these pages, thank goodness. All right, contributions to other agencies. These are donations that are requested of the county. We have a set, and we're going to go over that. I think it's one of the last pages I have on the slides. But this year we had 5 requests for an increase to existing. All these are existing donations the county makes. And so Meals on Wheels, which every year they come and ask for more. Meals on Wheels is part of Mid-Cumberland. Mid-Cumberland also does the transportation, the orange vans that run around giving transportation to folks. And they were asking from $216 and increase in dues, $2,500 for their transportation program, $29,1250 for their Meals on Wheels. We zapped that. We zapped any increase in donations this year. If we're going to have an increase in the tax rate, we just didn't feel like this was a year we needed to increase. And again, this is not taking away from what they're getting now. We'll see that a little bit later on. The historic group did ask for an additional $69.20 to their donation, which right now we are currently budgeted. And in the current budget, we still have $6,000 a year to go to them in the new year. But we zapped all those for that. The one thing we did put in was $21,324, right around $20,000 for our part-timers to get a cost of living, which was set at 2.5% for the year. So they would get a 2.5% cost of living increase, part-timers, and that's the county match that we would have to do on Social Security, $21,324. But again, keep in mind our part-timers were not included in the salary study. And then the last item, which y'all approved back in December, I think it was, there was a request and went through the commission to approve that all elected officials would go from the current pay grade of 40,000 plus county to a 50,000 plus county. And the cost on that, as you see, is $80,107 in new payroll, and then the Social Security and retirement brings it up to 91,658, and that would take effect July 1st if approved. Any questions on any of this or any of these budgets? If not, carry on, Franklin. Okay, now let's talk about schools. And first off, I applaud the school board and Dr. Beck isn't here, is she? Dr. Beck, but our new Dr. Beck is here, Ms. Shelley. Thank you so much for being here. And the school board worked, and they are getting some extra revenues to operate schools next year from the state level. But they had worked their budget where they did not ask for any additional increase from the county from the standpoint of our operating expenses or property tax. So I do applaud them for that. They did come in and request, as they started last year, to try to forecast what they would be coming to ask out of education debt service. And this blue is what they've requested. The field lights were part of last year in the 3 years. They got $450 if this is approved, $450 in the new year, and then next year would be $200,000, and that's a 3-year process. They would be done with their field lights, upgrading all those. Safety.
Not sure why that's coming.
Okay, and safety is a new addition this year. They're asking for $540,000, and this is all high school and middle school security, like the scanners you're seeing touted so well in Nashville. It's doing such a good job of the students coming, or anybody coming in and out of the school would be scanned with this scanner and highlight any weapons or anything that they shouldn't be bringing to school that could pick up. So that's $540,000. Now this second year, we talked as a budget committee that we would leave it in there, but as discussion continued about this, the concern is this would be the $400,000 that you have like your employee badge on you that's got a button. So if you had trouble in your classroom, make sure I'm explaining this right. Y'all stop me, I'm sure you will. That you push a button and it would alert there's something going on in your class, or alert everybody without you having to find a phone or go down a hallway or whatever. And so the initial cost on that to fire up is $400,000. But the other concern came in, it's $150,000 a year after that to keep that software up or whatever they need to keep that in good standing. And so, you know, we can't go back to ed debt to pay that. Told them they'd have to get that out of their own funds to do that on an ongoing basis. So that's a little bit up in the air. I don't know if y'all discussed that more to say y'all would wait on that or whatever, but.
Well, we still have a plan in the next year for
Okay.
that, and then figure out how to pick it out in the budget. In that original one where you talked about middle and high school, we're also making sure that all elementary schools have cameras.
Yes, that's a
visible
part of
on the
it.
outside of the
Yes.
school as well.
That's part of that $540,000. You went too far. Go back, Franklin, you went too far. Okay, here we go. So part of that 540, thank you so much for bringing it in. So that's not only security for the high school and middle school entrances and children entering, but also extra cameras, extra security also at the 6 elementary schools across the county. This is the card thing, and again, that's put off to next year. But again, if we wanted to put that on hold and have them bring it back next year, and maybe they've got it worked out to cover the charges and all, that would be fine. Now, the maintenance tech building, what the school system has requested is $350,000 this year in the new budget year coming up. That is for plans for a new maintenance and tech building out on Sweet Home Road where the bus shop is. So it'll be for maintenance and tech. Now, he's looking year 2. They are forecasting and believe that building will cost somewhere around $7 million. So they're asking for that to be included. So I think you'd need to look at this as a pair. If you're not going to approve the building, you know, wait on approving the plans because things could change. But so it almost needs to be taken together. I mean, if you're not going to build it, there's no reason to put $350,000 in plans going to sit and gather dust. So keep that in mind. But now look, and these numbers reflect that if y'all were to approve these, and of course it would take, if we paid the full $7 million out of fund balance, it's going to drop our fund balance to $1.74 million. And then it starts building back up. Now, the other thing that was agreed to by the school board that was in the budget committee is, you may recall last year, they had forecast the need for a possible new school at $60 million in 2030, 2031. They have pushed that 2 years down. They're saying they know they can wait 2 more years because their numbers, again, they're having trouble keeping their numbers up. They're losing kids. They're gaining in some areas, but losing in a lot of others. So by pushing that school down 2 years, if we were even do this, and that includes all the security and everything they're showing, you're showing by the time that new school would get here, and that's if they do it in 2032, we're back up to about 21 million. We could put 10 million down on that and do 50 million maybe over 12 years, or maybe even 10 years, and be about the same note and still be able to pay that out. So that's, we always got to look at this bottom line, what kind of impact that would have. Now, if you take that out, you basically be saying you got 28, 30 million right here to do that. But again, that's based on you wouldn't do something with the maintenance building somewhere along here, somewhere between now and 2032. Any questions on ed debt? Now, the rest of this, the school buses, those have been in there with a 3% annual increase. They weren't asking for anything extra, what has been in there for several years now. They got the last year of roof replacement be coming up at 3.6 million. That's another thing that you're seeing taking a hit down here at the bottom, is that we had some extra expense. Then the HVAC, they still got 2 more years on that at 3.8 million the next 2 years. And that's one reason you're seeing that pull these numbers down.
What exactly are we talking about, that $7 million building? What kind of building is it?
You're talking about a maintenance and tech building. It's for the maintenance. They brought maintenance back in-house, so it would hold all their supplies, all their tools, those type things. And then tech building for the computer folks, I guess, all the computer layout and storage. So that's what all that is. And they're proposing to put that on the property out there with the school bus garage at Sweet Home Road. Any questions on any of this? And now also, the other thing to keep in mind down here, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with this, these are revenues. I mean, this is what we would be spending each year, and then here's the revenues that make up what we're spending, or hopefully build up a little bit. Now, as you go across here, a lot of these are not showing any kind of increase. So when we say development tax at $650,000 a year, if a lot of homes start being built, 100, 200, 300 homes at a time, we could see that go up and also contribute to the bottom line. So some of that is in there. Any questions about ed debt? Anything y'all want to add from the schools? Did that cover it?
That's good.
Okay. All right, now, if the budget is approved as we presented, right now our current tax rate is 1.5915. You may remember reappraisal brought that back down. With this, that 16 cent and some change increase would take it to $1.75.3. Now, as you go down the list, who benefits from that 1.753, you start with County General. They would go up from 85.57 to 103. And so they would go from about 16 million right now being funded by that 85 cents to 20,439 funded by the $1.03. So there's the big difference. And again, salary study, extra people to get the jail open, extra expenses to get the jail open is the real meat of that number. Highways and roads, we left it at the same rate, so he's going to get his growth. If this is approved, he would go from $599 this year from the property taxes to $613, so he'll pick up about another $13,562, so we didn't take the growth there. Education debt, we left the growth alone there as well, but it'll go from $684 to $700,000, about another $15,500 that would go to ed debt over the same tax rate that's going to be presented. General debt service, here is where we're actually able to go down a little bit. We're not needing as much, and we'll look at this slide in a little bit. Is the current rate is 16, just a tad over 16.5 cents. We can take that down to about 15 3/4. So we're taking it down, removing about 84,000 out of that, still being able to pay the debt service. And we'll look at that in a little bit. Solid waste sanitation. Here, we left the growth alone there, and about another $20,000 going to solid waste. Go from about 919 to 940,000. General purpose schools, here we were able to, we adjusted that down from 4.011 because there's other revenues that make up that difference. And definitely understand, schools are a maintenance of effort. We cannot cut schools. Whatever we gave them this year to operate, we've got to give them next year to operate. Now the state doesn't tell us where that money comes from, but they do tell us, if you give them $1,000 this year, you're going to give them $1,000 next year. You go back and say, we're going to do 990, we're going to have to cut, because this state's not going to be too nice to us, to say the least. So maintenance of effort is there. And so even though this decreases a little bit, even though that decreases, it's still creating as much money and even 1427 more than last year. And again, we have left wide open to schools the sales tax collections, which have gone up every year since I've been here, coming up on 8 years. So that is also going to schools either through to ed debt, their operation. Then you may recall a few years ago, we directed after the operation caps at $4.5 million in the sales tax. Anything over that can go to their cap improvement line. So they've had that to operate with, and hopefully, I think they've made good use for it with that. So all of that. So schools are getting extra money along that line, and then also the state through the new formula has given them more money too. Capital projects. This was 160. Was it 160,000 a year for a long time, and it started edging up. Again, we left it at 9/10 of a cent, and so you're talking about $3,900 more, but it is now up to 178,583. And then here's the projects. We asked for another half cent there. That would take that from about 904 to right at $1 million. Another 95,000 to make sure we can make the rotation of the cars we've been used to upgrading in the patrol and in the fleets across the county. And then capital projects is still here. It's zero, and it's going to remain zero. And you may recall, we had about 13 cents, I believe, in that fund for several years, getting all the funding together for planning the jail and whatever. Now that we have switched over to paying the bonds back, that 13 cents carried up here. So now that's in that line, and that's the reason we've got 3.2 million, 3.1 million, because, and we'll see that in a minute. Any questions on the tax rate? Proposed tax rate. All right, Franklin, let's fire it up. Okay, now you say, what does that do to the average home? This is Diana's favorite question. I appreciate that. Here's the chart that they adapted, and I can't say enough good things about the accounting department we have. They're all over this. So if you see the yellow right here, if the new tax rate is approved, an increase of 16.15 cents, the average home in Cheatham County right now values at $412,500. So you would go from this year where you paid $1,641 on that house of $412,000 to $1,808. It's $167 more a year if this new tax rate is adopted, and that breaks down to about $1,392 a month. If you go back here to a $250,000 home, right now you're paying $995. That would go up to $1,096, $101 extra to pay for the new tax rate if that's approved, and of course that boils down to about $8.42 a month. Let's go to the high end. Let's go to 600,000. Okay, 600,000, 2387 you paid this year. New tax rate would take you 2630, 242. That goes out about $20.16 a month extra that somebody with a $600,000 property would be paying. Any questions on this? And I think do we have copies of this? We have copies of this to give out to everybody, because this is where it meets the road right here. What kind of impact it have on homes and individuals and properties. Any questions on this?
Now,
Yes.
on this amount here, it says $167, but that fire tax still on top of that.
Yes. Yeah, and again, people inside Pleasant View, Ashland City, and Kingston Springs do not pay the fire tax. So they would not be impacted by that. But yes, this does not include the fire tax by any stretch. Any other questions? All right, Franklin? All right, here's the county general debt service, and you see the big dog in here obviously is the jail project. The bond payment is right bubbling under $3 million and goes out to 20 plus years right there. So that's in there, which is the big one. Still got 7 more years on Sycamore Square. We got that about half paid for at $447, and then the highway garage is about $259 a year, and that'll be paid out in 3230. But again, you see this, and this is nothing we go in and add anything to without some serious thought or something coming along. So you see the fund balance is here, and it'll continue to grow up even with those payments well in over $3 million and 34, 35 if we don't do anything. The only thing out of this list that I say we may come back to, again, we got to get places we can purchase and expand fire halls and EMS in the future in that 10-year plan. So we may come back and get something out of this for that at some point. But this is where we are right now. We're not proposing any changes on this in the new year. Any questions over county general debt? Franklin? All right, now I told you we do have this list of who we contribute to each and every year from the county coffers. We have Mid-Cumberland Human Resource, which is $13,889.05. And then that includes the transportation service and the Meals on Wheels. The County Historical and Genealogical Association, we added this last year. You may recall we switched from, I think we had money going to Crossroads that were no longer in the county. We switched it over to this, and $6,000, so that would be in the new budget. Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Division of Forestry, this is $1,000 that every county across the state pays to the State Forestry Division. That's $1,000. Imagination Library, $3,000. That remains the same. $3,000 there. Leadership, Cheatham County, $1,000. Joint Economic Community Development. This is actually coming from the hotel motel tax, but we set it up this way. You have Leadership, Cheatham County, Joint Economic Community Development Board at $109,000 budget plus 25% of the hotel motel tax, not to exceed $25,000. You may recall we capped that a couple of years ago when we got the big hotels in. If we had not, that would probably be $100,000, maybe $140,000 in that 25%. So we do cap it at $25,000. There's another $25,000 that we redirected last year to go to tourism in the county. So we've got a total of $50,000 that supports joint economic community development in the county, across the county, and the cities do contribute to that. The breakdown of the overall budget, 74% is paid for by the counties, 26% is made up by the 4 cities on the expense of joint economic community development, and then this hotel tax comes in to pay some other things. Then also out of the hotel motel tax, we set it up 25%, but they're capped at $10,000 a year for the Industrial Development Board. We get $10,000 out of that. Then 2 other donations we make, the ARC, which is in the south part of the county, they took over the Meals on Wheels in the southern part of the county, so we split that donation. It used to all go to Mid-Cumberland, but when they started up, we split that, we prorated that, the number of meals they're serving Keystone Springs, Pegram area, and then north of the river here to divide that out. So we've been giving $19, $12, $50 to the ARC for the last several years since they've been in the Meals on Wheels business. And Safe Haven of Cheatham County is a Women's Domestic Abuse Center, and we've been giving, I think it's probably the 4th year we've done that at $5,000. Any questions on the donations? I think that is it. I don't believe there's another slide. If there is, it'll be news to me. I think we finished on that. But that is where we're at and where we hope to go this year. And again, this will be given over to the full commission at this point. Y'all may decide to put that on the floor and debate it out. Y'all may have your own plan. It's whatever y'all want to go with at that point. Any questions before I give it back to Chad?
How much of a tax increase did we increase last year? Do we know?
Do you recall, Sandri? It was part of that reappraisal. I think we went down and then came back up. Was it 12 cents? I want to say it was 12 cents, 12.1 cents.
12, 13 cents, and then we had to reappraise people's value went up crazy. Some people went up 40, 50%. So we'll give them we'll give them increase instead of having status quo last year. We increased it, and then we're going to increase it again this year. When are the taxpayers going to catch a break?
Good question, Mr. Walter. I mean, the other thing we do is we discuss each year what a zero tax increase would look like. Well, this year's zero tax increase is taking away raises that were given 6 months ago to employees across the county, not opening up the new jail, not giving them the manpower to open up the new jail. I don't think that's fiscally responsible. And hopefully next year, the growth should, I mean, we've had some weird things happening with COVID and all this other stuff since I've been here. But I see a time that we should get back on track, that we can live within the growth that's coming, the 3.5 cents or whatever the case may be. But that's where we're at right now. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion.
All right.
When you do this next time, send us this slide presentation instead of what we've got. I mean, what we got is 50 pages.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got it broke down in a simple.
I'll send this to you in the morning. I'll send it to all the commissioners in the morning, so y'all have it.
I mean, that would have been very helpful if we'd had that while you were going along, because you can't read half what's up on that screen.
It's hard for me to get you too much. No, I understand. But they do have paper handouts of if the tax rate, and then it not only has that, but if the tax rate were to go up a nickel, you can look on that scale and see what it would be, to increase. So they have those to hand out, matter of fact, I'll get them, hand them out right now. That's a Oh, you've already got it, okay, very good. Thank y'all so much for your time and attention. If y'all have any questions, you know where I appreciate it.
The guys, they sent out an email with all the budget items in it. So, and then, they also sent out an email and asked if you wanted it in paper copy, which, how many pages did you say it'd be?
It's a big,
Yeah,
big amount of paper.
whole pack of paper per person. But, I mean, the budget committee looked at the budget, the uncontrollables are just, how much was uncontrollables, Mr. Mayor, cents wise? 13 uncontrollables?
It was well over $2 million.
1331.
$2 million was the salary study alone.
And, you know, last year, we approved the salary study last year knowing that we're gonna have to fund it. I mean, I hate to raise taxes as bad as anybody, it seems like it never ended, but, I mean, it's up to the commission, but the mayor's laid it out. I mean, if anybody's got any questions, we can answer them tonight. Next Monday night will be a regular, commission workshop, and then we'll be voting June 30th.
And Michael Blau, we hear, the yearly process he goes through, how we presented, of course, Son Reno will spell out the steps that will take and what you can and can't do in that, come during the workshop, so everybody can read the position line.
I'm sure if you got any specific questions, I'm sure either the mayor or Sandrine's office can help you out on answering your questions about this budget, but, I mean, we went back and forth, we've had a lot of meetings, spent a lot of time at the budget committee on this budget. But it's up to the commission what we approve or what we deny. So has anybody got any questions tonight that we could try to answer? Mr. Randy, I know this is your first year on it. You got any?
I think
It's
I've
a-
probably already asked too many questions.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to take in. And what we've seen tonight is the changes. It's not the, you know, everything.
Yeah, I understand that, but you know, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tell everybody in here the way I feel about it. There's two ways of looking at everything. There's a want and there's a need. The county should operate on the needs. The wants is what comes out of your back pocket. Now, I think every department head in here ought to go back and just look and see, are these wants, or are these needs?
Now, are you talking about the additions that we're looking at or the total?
Yeah, I'm talking about the whole budget, every department head.
I mean, I tell people all the time when they ask about cutting the budget, my thing back to someone, people I work with live in Cheatham County, a lot of them, I said, what do you want to do without? Do you want to shut the landfills down another day? When you want to buy your tags, do you want to stand in line long? I mean, it's what can the citizens do without that they're already receiving service
Well,
wise?
Tim, this is, I'm gonna give you a scenario. The company I work for, I bought the vehicles. I bought every vehicle that we had. We bought vehicles to do the job. We did not buy vehicles for people to sit in and let air conditioning blow on. If a vehicle didn't need power windows on it, it didn't get power windows. So I mean, there's ways of looking at things as far as wants and needs. And you know, and I just think there's some things in the budget that probably are wants that are not really needed. And I just wish everybody would go back and, you know, just do a search and say, you know, do we really need these? You know, or is this something we just want?
I know as a budget committee, we work hard to cut everything that we can cut. So we cut it from where it was down to where it is now. But I'd like it to be lower, as far as the uncontrollables, the salary study, all that. It just makes it hard. But we went 3 years with no tax increase, and I love that, but unfortunately, because of jail and everything else, you know, you're gonna have a tax increase. The question is, if you go to zero, and we discussed that, you go to zero, you gotta cut a lot of stuff out, and some, you know, hurt some services for our folks in the county, and you just can't do that. Would I like to cut it more from the 16, 15? Yes. If someone could find out where we can cut some more, then I'm open to hearing it.
Mr. Randy, we had them come in with their wants, and they presented their wants, conservative wants. And then they went back and looked at it and came back with the bare necessities. So I don't feel like we have a lot of extra on here. It looks like a lot of extra, but it's to make our county run.
Well, out of the original proposals to the budget committee, we cut out almost 17 cents. Went from 33 to 16, 15. Like EMS, I mean, it's a large, and he done with some of his budget this time up and fixed, straighten me out if I'm wrong, but, you know, every year we have to add more money into overtime. Well, this year he tried to add it into the budget, to where we don't have to come back and do that.
This year was the first year that I ever budgeted any sort of salary money. 'Cause I never did it, my predecessors never did it, but I think the way that we got it broke down is by special events with the football games in the county, between the trainings, like I said, we can only conduct training on shift, it's just, we're too busy to do it on shift. And, doing that, and then the unknown overtime, I can't predict what's gonna happen in 5 minutes. So, but I feel like we got a pretty good plan, you know, and I did ask freight people to staff that West Cheatham station, but I settled with 2, that's a start, to get somebody in West Cheatham, just because response time to Hinton Road, Gossip Road 12 is 23 minutes. You look at, you run lights and sirens, and you go down parts of Henrietta, 25 plus minutes. So time is of the essence in a medical emergency or a traumatic event. So we're just trying to strengthen the services for the community and the citizens and the people that run through this county, because those wants and needs that Mr. Randy was talking about, it's there, and I feel like we owe that to the citizens. So,
Much like the EMS, I mean, the more the county grows, we're gonna have more ambulances, more ambulance personnel. I mean, you don't wanna call, there's probably nothing no worse than calling 911, you know they're coming, but you don't hear them.
yeah,
And a lot of times, like he's told us, all their ambulances are at the hospital, maybe taking somebody or at the hospital, and they're relying on another county to back us up and hope they can come help us. God forbid we have 4 out and have a bad wreck or.
to not come help, yeah. That's, you know, in the 5-year plan, it was designed, or it was made out to put one in East Cheatham, one in West Cheatham. West Cheatham developing probably won't happen as much as the East Cheatham community, for sure. So running an ambulance in West Cheatham 4 days a week, probably do that a while. But you can never run an ambulance in East Cheatham 4 days a week, 12 hours a day. It's gonna develop. I mean, it's the inevitable, I'm sure. And it's near the interstate, so, you know, that truck would have to transition to a 24/7 truck. That one in Henrietta could probably stay 4 days a week for a long time. But it would cover a lot of area, you know, help tremendously, so.
Anything else for tonight? Motion adjourned.
Excuse me, this may be unorthodox, but I got a little confused. I thought this was the county commission meeting today.
No, this is our budget workshop. Next Monday will be our regular workshop. The last Monday of the month, the 30th, will be our commission meeting.
So it won't be okay. I can't attend the commission meeting last month. I came last month's meeting, or the next week. I came to last month's meeting and found out it was 6 instead of 7.
Well, next week, we'll have a public forum if you want to speak.
I'll be out of town.
What about on the 30th?
Yeah, I might be back in. So they're coming, you know,
Yes, sir.